Hello and welcome, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Family Reflections. I'm joined in on this episode by the man here today, Arthur Allain. Arthur, can you tell the people hello? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I'll do it in my normal fashion. Saudi, big up to everybody all over the world looking at this right here. Welcome. My name is Arthur Allain. For those of you who don't know, I'm a musician by profession. I'm also a school teacher. I have been in music for professionally for about 13, 14 years, but stretching way back from school days. I am also a producer, entrepreneur. I'm a brand ambassador for St.Lucia, motivational speaker, amongst many other things. Entrepreneur, yeah, jack of all trades, master of just a few.
Yeah, man. And we're really happy to have you in on this episode. This episode is going to be a very interesting one because we're diving into the topic of manhood. What does it mean to be a man? And I think that's something that is not discussed as often as it should be. And I'm really excited about hearing your perspective on this. Before we get started, when I was preparing for the episode, I've been following you. I'm a musician also, and I remember you have this Be Positive challenge.
Right.
I thought that was very inspiring. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, the Be Positive challenge, it came about through my realization that people on social media, it was a lot of negative being spewed. It actually came about when the pandemic kind of just started. And it was always, when I scrolled on my news feed, it was nothing positive. Like it was all about, you know, death and sorrow and grief and, I'm spreading rumors and spreading fake news. You would never see something to uplift people, especially at a time when most people were out of a job, most people are going through stressful times. That should be an opportunity for us to kind of uplift each other. But instead, we were more tearing each other down. And
Right.
I thought to myself, as somebody that tend to have people to who look up to me. I said, what, let me try to use some of my influence to kind of get people in on that vein, to kind of bring out the positive spirit, because I'm all about being positive. Because for me too, as a musician, but last year during the pandemic, I wasn't teaching. So, and I just came from Canada touring, doing my thing, and lost basically all my gigs for the entire year. So I too was going for a period where like I was like, okay, damn, things are getting rough. But
Right.
I kept elevating myself, my mind, my thinking, and I just wanted other people to kind of get on that same path as well, to change their mindset. Because we can always get through whatever rough period we're going through. It's just a matter of the mind.
Right. Absolutely, man. And I think even now that the pandemic has matured a little bit or kind of gotten worse for some people or moved
Right.
on in many ways, um, we still need that. And right now
Yeah,
in
man.
St. Lucia, we have cases blowing through the roof, and a lot of people are scared. Some people feeling really stressed out. Even me, I recently started teaching myself, and I'm not exactly sure what the week is going to look like. We're waiting
Right.
for the ministry to say stuff.
Right. To say
It's a
something. Yeah.
real time of,
Uncertainty.
yeah, a time of uncertainty. And like you said, I think it is very important for us to make sure we keep the mind focused. Make sure uh you don't let yourself become a victim, but you adjust to the circumstances around you.
By all means.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are you planning anything similar to the Be Positive challenge moving forward?
Um, well, I always try to do little things on my own, on my own time when I talk to people, even if my students and just whoever I interact with and myself, leading by example, you will never see me posting something to tear down anybody on social media or to spread any bad vibes. So I try to lead by example and just post uplifting stuff or encourage others, or if I see some piece of good news that is enlightening to me, I want to enlighten other people too and share it out there. So whatever I share, I try to make it as positive as possible.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's very admirable, man. And I really want to encourage you to keep pushing in that direction for sure.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Now, personal question. This is
Right.
just me being curious. Saudi. I like that brand. I like the brand so much, man. Saudi.
Yeah, man.
Where did
Yeah,
that come
man.
from?
Well, for quite a number of years, in me doing my songs, I find one thing I was lacking was a sense of identity and what my brand. I never really. It took me a while before I actually developed. Who is Arthur Allain? What am I? What am I about?
Mhm.
And even a tagline. Most, you listen to a lot of big artists. They normally have that little something, that cliche that they use that identifies them. And I never really had one for many years. And I kept trying different things. It never really stuck until one day, I remember my dad when I used to work, because we used to use my dad was also working at the school, and then we would walk home, and whenever he saw someone on the way, he would always hail them up and say, "Hey, Saudi," all these little things like that. So that kind of resonated with me. And I was like, you know what? I remember putting it in one of the first song I put it in, I think it was Mama at the time. And then I just kind of kept using it and it stuck. And, I always think business wise, how can I keep it rolling and turn
Right.
it into a clothing line? And,
Right.
that kind of helped it stick into people's head even more until now, people see me on the street and the first thing they say is Saudi, it
Right.
becomes part of the identity of Arthur Allain as well. I hashtag it everywhere, make it stick in people's head. So
Yeah,
once
man.
they see Saudi, they hear Saudi, the one time they associated with the brand Arthur Allain.
Yeah, absolutely. And
And it's a greeting as well. So, and even when I go out, when I travel and people see it on my shirt, they see the Creole, they wonder, what does that mean? So they inquisitive, they come up to me and they ask me, what does Saudi mean? And, I get to tell them exactly what it is and who am I as a person, as an artist, and make them check me out on social media.
all right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a vibe, man. Saudi. Folks, if you're watching this, make sure you check out Alpha's page. It's going to be here right here in the description of this video. So if you look above us talking right now, you should see a hyperlink that you can use to go straight to his page. He has a lot of cool stuff that he's been working on, a lot of really good music. So make sure you check him out. Alpha, you mentioned that as you'd be riding with your father, you'd see him saying Saudi and all that kind of stuff. Um, in the conversation surrounding manhood, how important do you think fathers are? Right? Because often we hear people saying that you need a man to raise a man, and
Right.
you have to have that in order to really teach a son manhood.
Right.
Would you agree with that? What are your thoughts on that?
I think ideally, it's best to have fathers around. Fathers are still a very integral part of the family, and it's a very sad thing. In many black families, we find that the father figure is lacking, and we can see how much it's affecting the family, and how kids are sometimes going astray without that, and you're left with just the mother most times to actually guide the youths where and some things that mothers or women would just not be able to relate to as much as a man would. It's very hard to get the kids to actually understand where they're coming from. So I think a father is very important. I was fortunate enough to have my dad all around for my childhood, and now, to be honest, growing up, we didn't have the when we were like my first say 10 years, everything was my father. It was,
Yeah.
if I use the toilet when I'm a little boy, 3 years, is my father. I want to come and check me in the toilet and all that kind of thing. Drop me to school was him, until when I became a teenager, and then your hormones start raging and you feel like you're a big man already.
Yeah,
And
you're a
that
big
that
man now.
relationship kind of it slowly broke down until later on in life I realized, what, nah, man, so much of me is him because of him.
Right.
So I had to go back and mend things. We never fell out completely, but just to get back on that right path. And so much of what I've learned, so many of my principles, it comes from him, and I give thanks for that. And I think that fathers should do a lot more. I think if fathers played a greater role in our society, then a lot of the kids we see going astray would not be. And even not just for men, not for boys, but for girls too, because girls tend to be linked to their fathers a lot more. And
Yeah.
they now, if they lack that figure in their life, they tend to look for it elsewhere in other men, in partners, in relationships, and that tends to lead to a whole set of different problems. So the father still plays a very vital role, and I think men, it's our responsibilities when we have our kids. I don't have any as yet, but I plan to be the father that I want, the perfect father I can, best father I can be, best baby
Yeah.
daddy, like this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man. Absolutely. Uh,
it's important. It's
yeah.
important.
It's important. For me, I was again similar to you. I was lucky enough to always have my father in my corner, growing up. And growing up, I've also
Right.
seen many good men who played the role of a father very well and always provided for their children. And
Right.
nobody's perfect, right? So
Exactly.
any one of these men had their faults, but I'm grateful that I was able to see that growing up, and I
Right.
definitely agree with you in terms of the importance of having that father figure as well. But there's something for me that I've seen changing lately, where I don't hear as many instances of people who have been abandoned by their fathers. Or to me, growing up, used to hear about, oh yeah, this person, is just there with his mother. I don't know where his father is, stuff like that. At least in my generation,
Right.
I think now almost everybody that I know is very, very careful to look back and say, okay, how can I take care of my child? Even if they're not with the mom, or
Right.
something happened, they at least very carefully seem to want to take care of their child and to form a bond with that child. So would you say that
N-
fatherhood is becoming increasingly acknowledged, or is an increasingly significant thing?
I think, you know, as times change, some things never change at the same time, and sometimes when we in a particular situation, we see things differently from the outside. You still see a lot of women posting about deadbeat dads and all these things,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and it's sad sometimes to see. But I hope that when we start having more conversations and talking about things like that, guys can be more open to stepping up and taking the responsibility. For me in my circles, there's a mixture of us. There's some of us who had our dads, some of us who haven't. And we all have our different experiences, and they influence how we grow up as men. But at the same time, it's something that has to be worked on considerable to that we can better it fathers in society. Even as a teacher and looking at some of the students, a lot of the troubled students, sometimes you find that they may have those issues. Not all.
yeah.
Some may have, because you have some strong mothers who can play the role of both mother
Right.
and father.
Yeah, yeah,
And sometimes it takes other people, other men in the family to actually step in and play that father role. And when that happens, that's very commendable. Guys who can step in, whether it be as a stepfather, whether it be the uncle, or whether it be some other person, to just be that kind of role model. And sometimes for the kids too, is the teachers too, the male teachers that they have in encounter, because nurturing plays a very integral part in how kids are raised. And we follow from what we see. We always mimic what we see happening in front of us. So it's good to have good father figures around, even if say the actual father isn't there. But kudos to the men who stepping up and being fathers in the relationship, whether they're there or not. It's, like I say, important, man.
yeah.
Big
Uh,
time.
and I definitely want to emphasize that those men need kudos, because even beyond, let's say, though, and I'm not sure that there's any perfect relationships between fathers and sons that exist, but even beyond really good relationships between fathers and sons, there are always men that you encounter in your life, in my life particularly,
Yeah, man.
that have a really good positive effect, that really help you to kind of sit down and really look at the way you see certain things, and warn you about certain things that you'll encounter as a young man as well.
True.
So I want to take some time, to shout out those people and
Yeah, man.
the
Big
way
up,
that
big
they
up.
pour
I
into
don't think
others.
fathers normally get the credit like mothers do. Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time we big up the mothers. You look at society on the whole, Mother's Day, we make a big fuss, and
Yeah.
Father's Day, if you hear two advertisements on the radio, you hear a lot. It's kind of the opposite, you check me, but the fathers need to get the big up too. So big up the fathers out there doing their job and making things happen, man.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So diving into manhood a little bit, before we really go into this, I want to share with the viewers and listeners something that I came across, right? So guys,
Right.
I was getting ready for this episode, getting prepared, so I don't just come here just running my mouth for you all, right? So I'm getting prepared for this, and I came across this thing. So it's this story of a professor. He walked into this class, right? He walked into the class, everybody's sitting down, ready for his lesson. And he comes up and he asks a simple question. He writes it on the board. what are the qualities of a good man, right? So a young lady put her hands up, a student put their hands up, and they say, okay, being caring. Another person put their hand up and said, okay, honesty, being honest. Another person said, putting others before yourself, right? So the professor smiles, and he writes another statement on the board, and he says, what are the qualities of a real man, right? So, at first the class kind of looked confused, right? Um, and then somebody said, okay, take charge, be authoritative, authoritative, right?
Right.
Another person said, suppressing weakness, right? Another person said, taking risk, right? So what was immediately interesting to me is how the tone shifted
Right.
when they were asked, what is a good man
Right. And a real man.
and a real man,
True. It should be one in the same, it should be. But
Right.
because of the way that society has kind of defined now what a man should be, we tend to have diverted thoughts on them kind of questions, you get me?
Yeah.
But a real man should be all of those things, honest, this, that, but also, being authoritative, being strong, being the head of the household, etc. These are all qualities of a good man and a real man,
Right.
but as in life, all men are going to be different, but there are certain qualities that will stay through both of them, but a man is just a man. A man is a man, and we sometimes put labels on what a man should be. So or we should say women should do this and men should do that and that alone. And but the concept of that, as we can see, is evolving over time, and we find
Yeah.
ladies doing a lot of things that men used to do, and men doing things that ladies would do. You'd find a man in a kitchen cooking and thing. Back
Yeah.
then, you wouldn't find that. So is that a real man if he's in the kitchen and not doing construction or something?
Right.
All these things. So it's all a matter of perception, and in every culture that changes as well, because a man in the Middle East will not be the same as a man in, say, some tribe in Africa, or a man in the Caribbean. And
Yeah.
we too have our perceptions of what a man should be. Let's say a man is a man who cries or something. We say, oh, make a real man, make crying, because we're
Right.
so used to having that staunch image of what a man should be, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we are human beings. We're all different, but there are some qualities that will remain through all of us. But what a real man, or what a good man, or whatever that should be, that's good and real. These are matters of perspective,
Yeah. Well,
is
yeah, right there in the statement of real, right? You're already being slightly confrontational, because it's like you're already answering back somebody
yeah.
at a fake thing. It's like you're correcting somebody by telling them, no, this is what it really is,
Yeah.
Uh, uh, uh,
And so what's a fake man then?
exactly.
What's a fake man? A man is a man.
Yeah.
We all have
Um,
different qualities.
yeah, absolutely. And I think a healthy and good place to start in that conversation, I think, is a man is a good person first and
Yeah.
foremost, right? Um, it's somebody who takes care of their responsibilities, somebody who is taking care of their loved ones, being there for their loved ones in the ways that they need to be. Um, and I really worry sometimes about um, the emotional suppression. And I had on a past episode, I was talking to a guest with Kina, and uh, the, we were talking about crying in front of your children, right?
Right.
Because I mean, growing up, there was always that thing where, okay, a real man, you're not supposed to really just be crying, off the cuff like that. You have to be
True.
able to, hold yourself,
True.
and not just, just
Cry.
cry.
We'll be like a girl.
Yeah, exactly. And I was on the episode and I told them, as much as I agree that uh it's okay for a man to cry. It's okay for a man to
Yeah, man.
feel what he feels. I
Emotions.
don't know if I could see myself crying in front of my children,
No.
right? So
You see,
there
you
was
want to.
yeah,
We know. You see, the thing is, we as a people, we normally associate crying with weakness,
yeah,
and that's where it started. That's our culture again. Even showing emotion. We don't. That's something that we don't really see men, especially in the West Indies, do. And even for me, I it was something that I actually grew up with. I kind of experienced that myself. So I realized it was becoming a part of me too, and that was even affecting like my relationships. I realized I was being very nonchalant in a sense, and it was something that I had to consciously try to change because it was what I grew up with. I
yeah,
didn't really see men around me showing much emotion or showing, that kind of vibe. That was looked at upon as a weakness. So it was something that I think that we men, should I say let me cry more. I say let me cry. But we need to show more, affection, a lot more love, a lot more emotion,
right,
and that's something we in the Caribbean we don't really do much. Even to our partners, like it's for you to tell a man, boy, bro, I love you. That's something that's hard for men in the Caribbean to
yeah,
do,
yeah,
and we understand why. It's because of our culture and how we just grew up doing things, and it would take a lot to change those kind of things, huh? But it's
yeah,
something that we have to mentally try to change the blocks of how it was set for us. And because if you look at technically, I want to put it like that, but say the white families that you see,
hmm,
you would see the white guy showing his kids a lot more affection, a lot more love than, and even in the movies, that stereotype is kind of replayed in our faces all the time. So it kind of perpetuates the cycle, and we keep doing it and we keep doing it, and we never make a conscious effort to actually change it. There's a few who do it all the time, but it's just not part of our culture. And I think that is something that we have to evolve to kind of change the way that men are seen in regards to showing emotion and allowing that I can't call it weakness, that that side of them to be shown.
yeah. And folks, even now, I know this is a slightly different perspective, but it just came to me, and I want to share it with you all as well. As much as us men, we have to work on being a little more emotionally honest and all that stuff.
Right.
It's not just on us. We also need safe spaces to do that, right?
True,
Because
true.
I can guarantee you, there are some guys who would come to their lady and tell her, "Yeah, babe, I feel in a kind of way, like, yeah, can I get a job? Things kind of hard there, and yeah, and they start to tear up a little bit, and the lady watch them like, "Cut it by,
Yeah.
Mac,"
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. You get that. Depending
yeah,
on the woman, you'll get that.
yeah, exactly. And so now that man now moves forward with a caged up
Right.
emotion because like, nah, I can't let
True. My
that
woman see me
happen
so
to me
weak.
again.
Right.
Yeah.
That
So
could happen, and sometimes it's because again our culture, so certain women would be like, they understand what you're going through, etc. But other women would be like, what match are you doing there, so
yeah, yeah.
that would affect how a man now goes about showing emotion, and you understand these kind of things. We as both men, women have to, learn to evolve and get better at dealing with emotions on a whole, because that can help in things like arguments,
Oh yeah.
conflict resolution. Is very important. Managing your emotions, is something that we have to get through, man.
Yeah, man. Um, yeah, absolutely. Because even while we were just talking about that, I immediately thought about the suicide instances in St. Lucia where
Right.
you have guys drinking gramoxone,
Amazon. Yeah, like,
drinking gramoxone so often that now that like when you hear drink gramoxone, that's like oh yeah, yes, that means a
yeah,
man killed himself.
yeah,
As soon
man.
as you
Yeah.
hear, yeah, me say just drink,
True, true,
oh
true.
yeah, a man just killed himself.
Yep.
So I think that would go some ways to reducing some instances of male suicide in St. Lucia.
Yeah, man.
And it's a lot of work, huh? And it'll
It's
take
a lot of
time.
work. Yeah, it will take a lot of time, but of course, the conversations have to be had, and
Yeah.
it had to be something that we change from time the boy small, from little boys from schools. You see, a lot of time we put a lot of pressure on academics and getting grades, good grades, CXC come in, common entrance come in. But those basic life skills that we don't like we don't teach so much, in from the school curricula, not just from the school, from the families too, at homes, a lot of and it's a lot of different things that lend themselves to that. When you look at job employment and then see how okay mothers, fathers always in the hotels working all night long and they never really have time to raise the kids. That can happen, and it's not
Right.
no fault of theirs really,
Right.
or you parents not having enough time to raise their children, or they've lost a connection with them, say because of the cell phones and social media and all these different reasons. Other people raising your kids for you, and you don't really have the time to teach these little things. But it's important, and we have to really take the time out. Somebody has to make this step, and it has to be a holistic approach throughout the whole neighborhood, throughout the household, everywhere, at different levels, to really change those little things. And step by step, generations past, we can be a whole lot better than we are right now, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe we will be. I believe
Yeah, man.
with time we will definitely begin to center this issue and have more emotionally honest men and a society where emotional honesty is acceptable. Um,
True.
and yeah. Did you hear about this whole gruesome rape and murder? Uh, uh,
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. I heard about that. I mean, who didn't in St. Lucia, man? And I mean, it's a very sad situation. When we get a lot of victim shaming, it's sad that we're still on them levels. I really wish that we would elevate beyond that. For well, we don't know who killed the young lady yet. But for anyone to go as far as raping somebody and this just killing them, disposing them, boy, we have a long way to go, and these are, I mean, it's not something that's happening now, it's always happened, but we need to take more responsibility for our actions. We need to be better. We need to do better. Men need to do better at respecting women, the domestic violence. A man should never have to raise his hand on a woman. We need to resolve our issues in a better way than having to resort to hitting a woman,
yeah,
whether it be with your fist or with an object. Sometimes, yeah, some guys might say, they let their emotions get the best of him, but nah, man, you have to be on the level that you could be, you slam the door,
yeah.
do something else, go in your room, blast music or something, but don't go as far as taking your
Yeah,
hand and striking a woman. That's one thing
yeah.
I can never see myself doing, and I pray that I never ever have to ever
Right,
reach to that point.
right.
I remember growing up, I had a bit of a temper sometimes, and it was something that I had to really work on. And I can't remember the last time I was genuinely very angry. I try to calm myself if I feel like I'm getting annoyed, put myself in a different state of mind, you
Right,
know. And sometimes it just takes different things to do. Meditation, ease up, find something else to do that you love doing,
right.
to just take your mind off your anger or whatever it is that's clouding your judgment. And the worst thing sometimes we can turn to is alcohol. We go to our problems, and first thing you want to go for is a drink or that self distorts your thinking, make you do things that you don't really want to do, and then you find yourself doing things like hitting a woman. So it's a lot of things that we have to tackle, man.
Yeah, it's a sad thing, yeah. And for
Right,
me, when I hear an instance like that, the first thing is you have to it really makes me wonder like how many steps did this guy take or these
right.
guys, maybe it was more than one guy, um, to get
To
to that
get to that
point where
point.
they actually executed on this, you know?
Yeah,
How many mental steps? Like, because the thing is, right? I think at the very beginning, it has to come from some sort of something that happened in your childhood. A
right.
lot of
All
people
these
have
things, man.
childhood trauma,
Exactly.
things that they don't deal with. And I think it's important for us to establish that it's okay to seek counseling. It's okay to get help, uh,
Right.
to deal with the issues that you get, because all of us have stuff that we need to deal with, you know.
Yep, exactly.
And
I
then
actually just not to cut you short, I just as a thought came to my mind as you said that. I was watching this program on Netflix. It was about this serial killer. I think it was in Canada. He went about killing endless of couples and women, and you wonder why he was doing it. He was molesting kids and he was killing, raping and murdering the ladies and killing. He would execute the guys. And you wonder, boy, why? What would lead him to do something like that? And they were giving his history and his family history and his act. His father used to bring him into the cemetery, put him on a cross, and beat him and leave him there, from a little boy. And he became a troublemaker. And in the end, he became a serial killer. And you have to wonder, boy, what these are the kind of things that lead to kids growing up and being such animalistic. He became a Satanist, doing all kind of nonsense, and boy, he was crazy. And when
Yeah.
you look back at his history, his upbringing, that was what messed him up. So
Right.
we have to be careful how we treat children because it starts from the young man.
Yeah, because the way you treat this child is you're not just treating this child badly, you're also treating everybody else this child will affect
Yep,
badly in the
man. Yeah,
future,
indeed, exactly.
badly as well. So yeah, man, and there's so many instances of cases like that where sick people create sick people. You know,
Yep.
um, but yeah, in the case of this rape and murder, I've the viewers and listeners will remember that there's a past episode where um, I was talking about rejection, right? Because
Right.
I think the way Western society is set up, and most societies around the world, men experience rejection more often than women, because we're the ones who are typically expected to walk up and say, "Hey, how you
Right.
doing? What's up? I just want to get your number." That whole
Yeah, man.
deal.
True.
And getting a no, some guys can't handle the no,
Right.
and that
True.
makes the world much more dangerous for women, right? Because
Yep.
you have
Yep. Yep.
you have all
And I
these
mean,
people who are very strong or stronger than you are physically,
right.
who at any given instant can decide that you can't say no.
Yeah, yeah, true. It happens all the time. And I mean, a woman shouldn't have to be subjected to that kind of like that vibe. No is no, and if a woman says no, let that be it.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of thousands of other women out there that might give you that yes that you might least expect. So as about to try somewhere else, don't worry about that particular woman. You could try, pursue, see if that no turns to a yes, but don't do it forcefully, or don't feel that it's owed to you. Don't feel that she has to give you a piece of her body. Don't feel that she has to submit to you. You
Yeah.
know, nah. You didn't put that person on the earth to do that, to just submit to your command. So let the women be, let the girls be, man. Don't harass them. Don't make them feel like you're in charge. Nah, we have to change that narrative on the whole, man.
Yeah, man. Um, so there's something there's something I want to show you. We're coming into the last few minutes of the episode here, but I kind of want your thoughts on this. In the last episode, I was speaking to Chadia Mafre. Chadia,
Big up shout out.
yeah, you know Chadia.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so she's all the way in Ghana, and we are talking about a bunch of things, having a good time. And she was telling me about her thoughts regarding matriarchy in St. Lucia, where women tend to have more of the dominant role. Women are really taking care of things and running things. And viewers and listeners, you're in luck. Let me just show you that clip right here. I'm wondering why that is. Is this because St. Lucia is matriarchal now, or?
Yes, yes, St. Lucia is very matriarchal. And I'm speaking not just within the African context. In Trinidad, men are also, let me not say, I don't want to say feminine or whatever, but men handle their stuff in Trinidad. I'm not gonna lie. Like these brothers, like I'm like, not all of them, but the brothers that I met were solid. Like, I need to take care of my household. I need to do, and I don't see a lot of that coming from young St. Lucian men. Even men who
Really?
are in the church, yeah, they. Kenny, don't even get me started. This is a topic that I don't want to get started. I don't want to get started on this topic.
Okay.
Women and if women are definitely put in a position where if they don't handle business in St. Lucia, business is not going to be handled.
Tell us what you think about that. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, kind of ticklish, I mean, every family is different. We've realized that for many families, the men have kind of taken a step back compared to say times before when the man was really in charge of the household and doing everything. But times have evolved and women have gotten felt the need to kind of take a step forward in the family. They now sometimes they have the bigger salaries now. They more out there. They're taking up a lot of roles that men have traditionally held. And I know for some men that's probably, I would say, maybe belittling them in a sense. They would feel belittled that they're not the main breadwinner in a sense of the family. I still think that we still have a good balance. It's sad that we still have many households where fathers are absent, but I mean, you can't really say that it's a St. Lucia is a place where, hey, women are in charge of the household and they lead, and there's different families here and there. It's a balance. Life is a balance still.
Okay, so it's like a mixed bag, right? Is what you're saying?
It's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag.
Okay. Would you say it's true that um, men feel like the way we get validation is by being the breadwinner, being the provider? Is that
For
true
some
across the
men,
board?
yeah. It's not across the board, but for some men, yeah, they feel like they feel validated, yeah, in a sense that, hey, I'm coming home, I'm supplying for my family, I'm taking care of them, and because not being able to can lead to a whole set of depression for a man too. And I can imagine even in these times where a lot of people got let off, how some men might feel, not being able to provide, because traditionally we know that, okay, the man is supposed to be the one to bring in something, and when you can't, you feel like, oh boy.
Yeah, you're not doing
And
your
that
job.
might cause a man to leave, too, and feel like, because he feels like he's not doing enough to support for his family. And but when you have an understanding woman who's equally wanting to support the family as well, it makes it a whole lot better. So, and women should understand too that they shouldn't look down on a man in a situation
Right.
where he can't be able to currently provide, because there's a whole lot of reasons for that. Sometimes way beyond his fault. If a man is being downright lazy and just sitting down there doing nothing, then all right, fine.
Yeah.
But for a man who's trying and maybe going for a rough patch, that's where you have to kind of understand and work together to make things happen.
Right. Yeah, and there's extreme cases of that too, where, especially in the U.S., you have instances where a man will, let's say, he loses his job, right, and he's frustrated. He doesn't know how he'll provide, and these guys will kill their entire family,
Yeah.
kill their children because
Yep.
they just don't know how they're going to make ends meet. You
True.
know, and so that's an extreme case of that need to be a good provider, but. For me, I see a lot of merit in as a man, wanting to feed your family, wanting to
Yeah, man.
make sure you hold everybody down and you provide the meat on the table. But if there's a situation where your lady can take that role because maybe she's more educated, or maybe she's better with money, so she's
Right.
can budget better and she has a larger bank account. I don't think that diminishes your value as a person.
Yeah, man.
Um,
You now have to step up and see in what other ways that you can
right, right,
contribute to the family.
right, exactly, right. Um, so yeah, that's my stance on that. But uh, for me, I feel that need to make sure my family is taken care of. For
Yeah, man,
sure.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, man. So as we're coming into the finish line here, uh, I know everybody watching this was thinking last year, as everybody was talking about, yeah, boy, time for this year to end,
True.
because 2021, we're hoping for the best, and now, especially in St. Lucia, we're seeing just a full blown uh,
Spikes.
spike in cases here.
Right.
When do you think things will kind of take a turn? When we getting back to normal here?
Boy, I don't think anybody can understand can really say right now. Right now, what the situation is forcing us to do is to kind of evolve, adapt. We don't know when things will get back to normal. Like even in like for say for example musicians. I was teaching for what 8 years. I left teaching 2017. So I took a 3 year break and I was like, you know what, this is what I'm gonna focus on. Things were working perfectly for me. I couldn't have been happier in the direction my career was going, and it just suddenly just went topsy turvy.
Right.
Immediately, you know, I need to I have loans to pay, I have this to do, I have moves I want to make. So you know, I was happy I could have fallen back on my teaching, but a lot of people couldn't have, you know. So you now have to think of what else can I do to sustain my living, you know, what if it means stepping out of my comfort zone, if it means okay, I'm gonna put down my instrument right now as a musician and go and do something else, whether it be construction, whether it be something else, you know, or create employment for myself. We have to now better our situation because this thing can happen for the next 3 4 years. We don't know. You know, we really and truly don't know. It's hard to even plan and make a solid plan as to where we're gonna take ourselves. So we now have to just work on the fly in a sense and see what best we can do to make things happen, man. And I know it's a stressful time. I know it's a period of time where we really can fall into hard depression, but we have to be strong. We have to be strong and support each other, man. And that's very important. You know, have friends around you who can pull you up, bail you out, and encourage you to keep pushing on because boy, it's rough. I can't see things going any different for the next at least for the next 6 months. We still in the same boat.
Yeah.
Maybe a year, 2 years. Let's hope for the best. I hope things will get to a better sense of normalcy, but I think we can forget about what we previously knew as normal. That's gonna change.
Right.
You know, the world is always evolving. People before us have been through it. We're going for ours. I never thought we'd see it in our lifetime, but yeah, we have to face it.
And I think that's one of the life skills that really change your entire life. The ability to pivot, the ability to turn and switch and improvise and adjust to the circumstances around you, because we can't
have to be
we cannot always control the circumstances around us.
Exactly.
But we can control ourselves and how we react to changing circumstances and how we react when we encounter these challenges, you know?
Yep.
So actually, folks, if you're watching this, the next sketch coming from Iyanola Pictures will have something to do with that. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be dropping this week after this episode, of course, drops tomorrow. So one more question for you, sir, before we head out the door. I want to thank you again for joining us on this episode so much.
Yeah, man, no problem.
But this last question, I don't know if you thought you'd get it easy, but this last question is an interesting one, right? Because I have to think of the answer for this myself. Let's imagine those of you, if any of you have watched the Green Room on Lucian Musicians Caribbean Cadence now, you might recognize this question. But let's say you're in this auditorium, you're in this hall. I have all the fathers in St. Lucia, all the men our age or older, and you have the opportunity to tell them what to tell their sons about manhood. What do you say?
What would be my advice to the men to tell their sons? Well, I'll tell them, first of all, be the best version of yourself you can be. You know, we all make mistakes. Fathers will make mistakes, but don't learn from the mistakes from their fathers, you know, and better yourself. Be better than I was, you know. Try to develop yourself way beyond your expectations and just keep trying to make today better than yesterday was. Tomorrow is going to be a lot better. Stay focused. You know, life will be filled with challenges, but you have to learn to overcome them and always be responsible for your own actions. A man is going to be a man. You'll be a man one day. And you got to be the best man that you can be for not just yourself, but your family, your friends, everyone around you, and the world on the whole. Yeah. And always stay positive.
Yeah. Absolutely. If I think I was in the same boat, I would say to first and foremost be a good person. Respect everybody. Don't look down on anybody.
For sure.
Be brave. Be courageous. Don't mistreat people who are physically weaker than you. Doesn't matter whether it's a man, whether it doesn't matter if it's a woman. Just because you're stronger physically does not mean you get to use that against people. In fact, you should be using that to protect people and keep people safe. And that on top of everything you just said, I think would be an answer that would at least get people pointed in the right direction.
Yeah, man.
In my opinion,
For sure. Good vibes.
Yeah. So, man, thank you so much for joining us in I almost said
pleasure.
Yeah, on this episode of Family Reflections. Folks, if you're watching this, as always, I have to pull up the calendar here for y'all. We will be back on the 15th of February. So you can join us then. Arthur, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, man. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Keep bringing the good vibes, man. It's all a pleasure to be here. Big up to everybody listening, locked in. Check out my social media, Arthur Allain 758. My website is arthuralla758.com. Plenty new music and fun for the year. So stay tuned for all I have to offer, man. Big up.
All right, folks. You heard it here. See you on the 15th. Bye for now.
Respect.
Boom.
Saudi.